Hello, it's Jane here. It's the middle of May and clearly I'm up in the polytunnel, but we have just had the mother of all rainstorms. I'm saying that, I'm unplugging my mic now because so it doesn't fall on the floor. I'll put it there where it's safe. Yeah, it probably hasn't been that heavy, but in here, the noise, of course, of it bouncing off the plastic is quite incredible. And really, I quite like storms. I've said before, I love a thunderstorm, lightning storm, all that. When you're inside, when you're dry, when you've got access to a kettle and maybe a couple of biscuits. But at the moment, I must say I'm quite stranded. In fact, I'm so stranded that I ran for it from the shed at the bottom of the allotment up to here, and I've left my coat down there. So yes, I could go out and get wet, and yes, I'm looking a little bit dishevelled as it is. But anyway, we wanted rain, we've got rain, the water butts are filling up quite nicely, thank you, and all I can keep saying is, yeah, it's good for the garden, it's good for the garden. What it's not so good for, though, is what I was going to be talking to you about today, which was planting out my beans, because look at them. I mean, do you remember a few weeks ago, I'll put a link up somewhere, I planted these in these little trays. They have come on absolutely beautifully, and really it's ready for them to go out. I'm trying to see if there's one I can lift up for you to see if the roots are coming through. I can't, but believe you me, they're really well established. I do hope you can hear me. They're really well established now and ready to go out. But no way, Jose, not only am I too nesh to go out in a heavy rainstorm, I do quite like it. I do quite like it. If you're in the middle of a field somewhere and it pours down and you get wet, it just makes me laugh because there's nothing you can do about it. But I wouldn't voluntarily choose to go out in one. That's beside the point. But it's just too wet to plant out in. It's muddy. The soil will be muddy. But what it does also lead me onto, which is the actual subject of the video today, just in case you're thinking, come on Jane, get on with it. Slugs. Today I'm going to talk to you about slugs. Obviously this sort of weather, it's getting louder again. I might have to just keep stopping, hooray you say, and cutting. So if this all seems a bit weirdly edited, it's because that's too noisy. Yeah, slugs are going to love this weather. Worms are, slugs are, the birds are, because the worms and slugs will be out and about. So what we've got to start thinking about, as we're talking about moving out our beautifully sown, precious seedling plants outside into the big wide world, is about those wretched little slimy characters who you turn your back for a second, they've climbed up under a leaf, and before you know it, they've felled half your bean forest. So yeah, we're going to have a little chat about what you can do to deter slugs and what I'm going to be doing to deter slugs this year. I presently use a particular method to try and deter the slugs that happily trudge their way to my garden. But what I thought I'd do, because I know everyone's got their own methods, was I've asked on the Facebook group, the Jane's Allotment Facebook group, link below, what different people do and what different people use in their effort to get rid of the slug population in their garden and try and preserve their lovely, not just veg, but flowers as well. And there were so many responses. I hope you can see my head. I think the camera's blown over a bit. There were so many responses. I've had to write several lists. So you'll have to forgive me for referring to this as I go on, because honestly I was quite blown away with the variety of different methods people use. I mean, really, it's a seasonal thing, isn't it? It's seasonal. It's this time of year when we're putting out our precious seedlings, so there's this lovely young growth. And you know, bless them, the poor old slugs, they're just trying to survive. It's like somebody opens an open air restaurant by and says, all the food's free and we're going to put out your favourite things. You're going to go along and eat as much as you can, can't you? You know, so I don't know, it's the same for slugs. They're not malicious little creatures, although sometimes it feels like they are. But this sort of weather, they obviously need nice, smooth, wet soil is perfect for them to come up and be active. So this sort of weather is another reason I don't want to be planting these out as a delicious slug buffet. I mean, in the 70s, 60s, 70s, 80s, even now, I remember Mum and Dad used those bright blue green slug pellets, and you would literally, sometimes it would be my job to literally go around the garden and smother the soil in slug pellets to keep the slugs away. I'm sure it worked. I don't know if it created a super slug, but as it is now, I believe in the UK, and if I'm wrong on this, please someone say so in the comments below. You usually do. I believe in the UK now that they are illegal to sell. But if you've got a stash of slug pellets, you can use them. I don't know if it's illegal to buy them, but I think as far as the seller's concerned, you're not supposed to, or you're advised against selling them. But obviously people still have them. Again, I think Mum and Dad have still got some from the 70s in their shed. They probably bought by. And yet, obviously as years have gone by and we've become more educated about permaculture and the environment, the knock-on effect we know now is that if you are going to be poisoning your slugs and snails, in turn that is going to knock on to the creatures that feed on them, so your frogs and your birds, for example. So, you know, you're damaging your ecosystem from the very tiniest slug. You know, I don't know then if it goes into a bird who gets eaten by a fox. It's like, what's the old woman who swallowed a horse? Do you know what I mean? I don't know how far along that poison would be active for. Again, put it in the comments below. But certainly it's advisable now, if you can think of a different way to do it that way. So yeah, some really interesting answers. One of the main things that came through, and I would say most of you will probably agree with, is the use of beer traps, which is literally put some sort of receptacle in the soil, not too close to your plants. You don't want to be attracting them too close, but near enough that they might come across it on the way to the feast. And the slugs will be attracted to, is it the smell, the sweetness of the beer? Blub, blub, blub. In they go, drown. Happy slugs. Okay, lots of you use that, and quite a few of you put different variants. Some of you talked about cutting little arches in a bottle that they go into, using different pots for lids, etc, etc. But basically a saucer would probably do, or a shallow dish, or a deep dish, and then they can't get out again. So there is the beer hotel. Again, I said the beer hotel, the beer trap. Again, there's arguments for and against. My argument for it would be, it seems to be effective. Okay, it takes some a little bit of work, because you'd have to set it up. I mean, all you have to do is pour beer in a thing, and then you would have to clear it away afterwards. Okay, repeat. My argument against that would be that not only, I think somebody mentioned that Hugh Richards mentioned that it can attract slugs from up to 200 metres away. So you might be actually attracting slugs towards the area you want to protect, as opposed to getting, you know, sending them on their way, if you like. I don't know the science behind that, but it is an argument. My argument is that, and this is me being a real softie, and I will live to eat my words, if not the slugs at the end of the season, if all these get decimated. I just don't like killing things. I'm a gardener. I know I've got to toughen up, but even green fly, black fly, if I spray them with the soapy water, I'm apologising and looking the other way, which is hugely hypocritical because I eat meat. Do you know what I mean? But I hate the deliberate action of actually killing something. And I do think, in the way I am trying to garden more and more, talking about the ecosystem, the structure of the ecosystem in your garden, I think it would interfere with that a little bit, because those slugs are there for a reason. They actually actually, I mean, Toni Twist actually gave great response over on Facebook, and she was talking about how valuable the value that slugs have is to eat fallen leaves and yellowing leaves, and you know, they will go for sickly plants, like with your green fly, like with any predator. They will go for the sickly looking thing first because they know it can't respond, you know. But yeah, Toni says make sure you do your housework around your garden, if you like, you know, pick up your old leaves off the soil, make sure everything is above ground, there's nothing for them to hide under. But yeah, so a lot of slugs do that. They clear up leaf litter for us. Other slugs, bigger slugs, then eat the smaller slugs. So, you know, to actually start interfering and removing one of those things in this whole chain of, I keep saying the ecosystem, permaculture, the whole, you know what I mean, the food chain. I feel like you're leaving a bit of a gap there. I will eat my words, I am sure, but I'll tell you what I'm going to be doing later on instead. But beer traps, if you use them, good on you. It's organic. You know, it's a great way. It seems like it's really effective. Another way that I must admit makes me go, is nematodes. Now, I know they've become increasingly popular over recent years because, again, they are seen as an organic solution to all kinds of things. So not just your slugs, but your caterpillars, wasps, that sort of thing. And it's basically, from what I can gather, is something is ingested by the creature you wish to destroy. This rain's putting me off my words. Just say the correct word in where you can. It's ingested and so it eats it from the inside, and I just think that's a really horrible way to die. And honestly, I wouldn't want to go that way. I'd rather be in a beer thing than be eaten from the inside. So yeah. So nematodes, again, for the argument for them, they're effective. The argument against them, I'm too squeamish, but also I think they can be quite expensive. I know there are people who farm their own nematodes, but again, that's a whole other area to get involved in, and I'm not interested enough to do that. So if you do use them, great. Let me know if you buy them in, if you farm them. Put that in the comments below. But yeah, it's another method, you know, and all these methods are valuable. It's a bit icky. The last one though, and I'm going to say the last one, the major one, is using some sort of barrier around your plants to protect them. Now, I was just talking to our plot neighbour as I came in, as the black clouds are approaching, and she was saying this year she's investing in a whole load of copper wire to put around the edge of her raised beds. She's used it before, mainly successful, one or two casualties if you like, but a lot more successful than not using anything at all. Put pennies, stick around your raised bed, anything copper, put round. Other things that you can put round, let me have a look. These are thanks to so many of you. There are so many. I was hoping to just call out a couple of names, but what I will do, I'll either put the names on as I'm talking about you, or I'll put all your names on at the end to say thank you. But Kerry uses wire wool, Strulch, wool pellets. We have used wool pellets before, but I feel like you've got to, are they the ones that have to be damp? I think they have to be damp to sort of spread a little bit. I might be getting that mixed up with something else. But yeah, wool pellets she finds effective. Max again mentioned slug halos, which was something I hadn't heard of, which is why I love this sort of thing. And so they're a bottomless pot, and they have like a lip, a large lip, that the slug or the snail might decide to happily climb up your pot, but they can't manoeuvre themselves round and back up and round into the actual plant itself. I think they're a great idea. They are plastic. I did look them up. You can get about 12, I think, for $8.99, but they are something that I imagine you would use year on year. Again, you're going to be limited by the amount you can buy and the amount that you grow, but perfect barrier. Pot bottles, I'll come back onto that in a minute. Eggshells, dog hair, shells, actually ground shells, coffee grounds. We've used coffee grounds before, but again, they do just tend to get, especially in this weather, they just wash away, you know, so not great. The neighbour was also saying slugs don't like the smell of things like your garlics, your alliums. I've never tried companion planting for that reason. If you know of something that you can plant that will put slugs and snails off in the form of companion planting, again, let me know. I'll be fascinated and I'll grow it everywhere. Another thing that we've done before, last year, or was it the year before, I planted out our courgettes. They're actually out there now. Hopefully I'm going to get to show you, and I'll show you what I've done this year. And I actually surrounded them, they were only quite small at the time, I surrounded them with goose grass, sort of pegged down to the ground. Obviously you have to pick the goose grass, also known as sticky willy. Lovely name. You have to pick it before it's flowering or gone to seed, because you don't want to, you know, spread it everywhere. But the stickiness, the tiny little hairs on it act as a barrier, and they actually worked really well until the plant was big enough to fend for itself. And then, you know, it's not going to last all season long, but for that precious few weeks, I would say, while your plant is establishing itself, it was a really good barrier. So yeah, so we've got beer traps, we've got nematodes, we've got barriers, and then we come to us, basically, going out, midnight patrol, at night, with a torch, picking off all your slugs and your snails. Now, I can really see the advantage in that. It's organic, it's natural, but when your allotment, we're not that far from home, but believe you me, if I came wandering along here in my with my torch in my gym jams at midnight, I'd soon be on the local crime watchers website. So yeah, it's not feasible if you can't just pop out in your back garden. Also, depending on how much you're growing, so sorry. Also, depending on how much you're growing, how long is it going to take? Okay, so good on you if you do that, but it ain't for me. And then we've got the more natural predators that we have to encourage, and they'll love this weather as well. Frogs, toads, birds, all the things that will see your slugs as a tasty treat. They are going to absolutely love you for sending some slugs their way, you know, for leaving some slugs in your garden. Again, we're talking about the natural balance in your garden. If you've got ducks or you've got chickens, woohoo! You've got your natural slug deterrent there, haven't you? The downside is, I think particularly with chickens, they will not only eat the slugs, but they'll eat the plants as well. Whereas I do think ducks are a bit more picky. They will eat the slugs and snails and maybe leave your plants alone, but having never had ducks, I really don't know. But they are just a few of the comments that came in that I thought were really interesting. If you are going to try and encourage a more natural balance in your garden, and again, that's what, you know, we are growing organically. We don't depend on our food, and that is the big difference. If you are dependent on your food and you need to maximise the crops that you can get from a particular area, you're going to want to use any and all of these that will work, because that is your food, you know, that keeps you going. We, at the moment, our food that we grow here supplements our diet, so we don't have to be quite as precious, so we can afford to be a little bit more, I won't say lax, but a little bit more relaxed about what we do. Grow extras. Expect that some of your beans, some of your brassicas, some of your beautiful, beautiful leafy lettuce are going to get munched. So yeah, grow backups, and then it's not going to be too disappointing. The beans I am going to be putting in whenever I get the chance to. I'm going to be actually sowing beans with them as well. So if they get got, there'll be another lot about to come through. Okay, and I've always got a few extra backups in the greenhouse. Oh, a great one, I've missed this one out. Quite a few people mentioned that one of the best things to do is remove their natural habitats. So if you've got a pile of old wood somewhere, we've got loads at the back of the garden in the wilder area. But if you've got bits of old wood, if you've got upside down pots, if you've been a little bit untidy, if you like, which I certainly am, around your planting, that's where slugs will love to take shelter and they will love to hide. So make sure that, you know, you could put a plank of wood, someone said about putting a plank of wood nearby so the slugs go under it and it's like a trap. And then they pick the slugs up and throw them over to the chickens or wherever, you know. That's a great idea. But make sure you're not giving them the opportunity to have a little munch and then go for a little afternoon kip. Okay, so make sure you remove the things. What I'm going to be doing this year, I'm not going to be able to show you, I don't think, in this weather. I am going to be using my tried and tested pop bottle technique. So as I put the plants out, I will put half a pop bottle on top of them. If it's the lidded half, obviously I'll take the lid off. If it's the other half, obviously I'll take the bottom off. I'm going to sneeze. Bless me. And that will act as a barrier, hopefully, fingers crossed, for the slugs. The courgettes I have put out, I have put plastic collars round, and I've also surrounded them with prunings from my gooseberry bushes. So they've not just got the thorns, but they've got the plastic thing as well. They are doing brilliantly. So much as I would like to show you, this weather's got other ideas. But considering I was just going to have a quick chat and then go and plant the beans and talk to you out there, this just shows you what a big subject it is. But I must say, my favourite comment came from Horrey. I hope that's how you pronounce your name, Ian. He said, I just go out in all weathers and shout at them. He says it doesn't do them any good, but it makes him feel a darn sight better. So yeah, if all else fails, and I think we've all felt like that at some point in our gardening adventures, just go out and have a really good yell. It's quite cathartic. So yeah, thanks for that. But yeah, I can't do much about this. I'm going to leave it there. I really hope that you've been able to hear this. I really hope I've switched record on. I'm going to be here for some time. I wouldn't mind if I'd managed to get all these outside and then I could start planting up the tomatoes. But as it is, I've got everything around me ready to go out, and until I get those out, I can't start on my poly and get my tomatoes up, but that's a job for the next day or two. Hope you're okay. You know, if you have got this sort of weather, it's temporary. That's lasted for a good few weeks. We do need it. The garden will benefit from it hugely. So yeah, we've got to look on the bright side. Come along to the Facebook group. Come along to Instagram. All the links are down below. And I'd like to say thanks once again for subscribing and pressing the bell. If you haven't done so, please do so. Just to let us know that you're there, okay? But I'm going to say goodbye for now and then probably sit in a very rainy polytunnel for a couple of hours until it goes off. Okay. Bye for now. Bye.